A critical hurricane is approaching. Flooding and tornadoes are devastating. Wildfires are spreading everywhere. We provide fast and accurate updates. Your Hurricane and Storm Center.
Hurricane and Storm Center welcomes you. Welcome back to the latest marine weather update from Hurricane and Storm Center. In today's report, we are tracking weather conditions across U.S. waters, from the Atlantic Ocean, the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean Sea, to the Eastern Pacific, Hawaii, and Alaska. Tonight and tomorrow, June 26, 2026, the main concern is not a major tropical cyclone approaching the United States. However, the Eastern Pacific remains active with tropical disturbances worth watching. Meanwhile, the Gulf of Mexico and coastal areas across the southern United States must remain alert for strong thunderstorms, gusty winds, locally rough seas, and possible flash flooding as tropical moisture continues to linger after recent unsettled weather. Here is the full update. Current conditions. Across the entire Atlantic Basin, including the open Atlantic Ocean, the Caribbean Sea, and the Gulf of Mexico, there are currently no active tropical cyclones posing a direct threat to the U.S. mainland. This is relatively good news for coastal states from Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida to the southeast coast and the U.S. East Coast. However, the absence of a tropical storm does not mean calm weather everywhere. Hot and humid summer air is covering much of the southern United States. Across the Gulf of Mexico, weak troughs of low pressure, sea breeze convergence, and abundant moisture may continue to trigger rapidly developing thunderstorms, especially from late afternoon through the overnight hours. These storms can produce strong wind gusts, frequent lightning, heavy downpours, temporarily rough seas, and sharply reduced visibility for mariners. Along the coastal waters of Texas and Louisiana, lingering tropical moisture associated with the former tropical weather system Arthur remains an element to watch. Although Arthur has weakened and is no longer a well-defined tropical cyclone, moisture left behind by the system may continue to interact with low-pressure troughs and summertime thunderstorms. This could increase the risk of locally heavy rainfall along the Gulf Coast, especially where storms repeatedly move over the same areas for several hours. Along the U.S. East Coast, from Florida through Georgia, the Carolinas, the Mid-Atlantic, and into the Northeast, sea breezes and upper-level disturbances may produce scattered showers and thunderstorms. During the daytime, high temperatures will provide strong energy for thunderstorm development. When storms form over the water or move offshore from land, fishermen and small vessels may encounter sudden gusty winds, choppy seas, dangerous lightning, and torrential rainfall. In the Eastern Pacific, conditions deserve closer attention. A low-pressure area designated Invest 94E is located south-southwest of the southern tip of the Baja California Peninsula. The system has shown signs of improved organization during the past day, with clusters of thunderstorms persisting near the low-pressure center. The environment remains somewhat favorable for short-term development, so the chance of tropical depression formation during the next 24 to 48 hours is considered moderate. Still, the key factor is that Invest 94E is moving generally west to west-northwest. This track is expected to take the system farther away from Mexico and does not point directly toward the U.S. mainland. By the end of the week, environmental conditions ahead of the disturbance are forecast to become less favorable, with drier air and other factors working against the system's circulation. As a result, the near-term direct threat to California or the U.S. Southwest remains low. Across the Central Pacific and Hawaii, there are currently no tropical cyclones identified as an immediate threat. However, the tropical season in this region is entering a period that requires closer monitoring. Trade winds, ocean swells, and tropical showers can change quickly, especially as disturbances from the Eastern Pacific gradually move westward. Alaska waters continue to be influenced by non-tropical low-pressure systems, cold fronts, and strong winds typical of the North Pacific. Vessels operating in the Bering Sea, the Gulf of Alaska, and offshore waters south of Alaska should remain alert for strong winds, high seas, marine fog, and cold temperatures. This is not a tropical cyclone environment, but it remains a significant maritime hazard because weather conditions can change rapidly. Disturbances being monitored. The most notable disturbance at this time is Invest 94E in the eastern Pacific. The system is located well offshore, south-southwest of the Baja California Peninsula. Satellite imagery indicates that thunderstorms are becoming somewhat more concentrated around the low-pressure area, while the low-level circulation appears to be gradually improving. Based on the latest assessment, the chance of tropical cyclone formation during the next 48 hours is moderate, near 50%. The chance of development during the next 7 days also remains moderate. However, the favorable window for Invest 94E may not last long. As the system moves westward or west-northwestward, it is expected to enter a less supportive atmospheric environment. This could cause thunderstorms to weaken, the circulation to become disorganized, or the system to fail to develop into a clearly defined tropical cyclone. Another area of low pressure may form late this week or early next week across the central eastern Pacific, well offshore from southwestern Mexico. During the next 48 hours, the chance of development from this potential system remains low, but over the 5 to 7 day period, environmental conditions may become more favorable for gradual organization. If it develops, the system would most likely move westward to west-northwestward, remaining mainly over open water. Across the Atlantic, the Caribbean Sea, and the Gulf of Mexico, there are currently no tropical disturbances being monitored with a significant chance of development over the next several days. This represents a relatively quiet period on the tropical weather map, but it is not a reason to let down your guard. Late June is a time when tropical activity can begin to gradually increase across the Gulf of Mexico, the Western Caribbean, and waters offshore of the southeast United States.
24-hour forecast. Tonight and tomorrow, June 26, 2026. Tonight, waters across the Gulf of Mexico will continue to face the risk of scattered showers and thunderstorms. Coastal areas near Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and the Florida Panhandle should watch for rapidly developing strong storms. Winds inside thunderstorms may increase suddenly, accompanied by lightning, heavy rain, and temporarily higher waves. Across offshore waters near Florida and the Florida Straits, winds are not expected to be extreme overall, but tropical thunderstorms may still cause sudden visibility reductions. Small boats, cruise vessels, fishing boats, and marine recreation operators should check weather radar, monitor thunderstorm warnings, and avoid areas where strong storm clouds are developing. Along the U.S. East Coast, from Florida through the Carolinas and the Mid-Atlantic, marine weather may change through the daily heating cycle. During the evening and early morning, some thunderstorm clusters may move offshore from land. On June 26th, heat across land areas will continue to trigger afternoon thunderstorms. Gusty winds, lightning, and localized rough seas will be the main concerns, rather than a widespread tropical cyclone threat. In the eastern Pacific, Invest 94E will remain the main system to watch. During the next 24 hours, the disturbance may maintain thunderstorms near its center and could have an opportunity to become better organized. If a well-defined closed circulation develops, the system could be upgraded to a tropical depression. However, this remains uncertain. Its primary west to west-northwest track continues to keep the direct risk to the U.S. mainland very low on June 26th. Along the waters of Southern California and offshore Baja California, indirect effects from Invest 94E may mainly involve long-period swells and light to moderate marine roughness in some offshore areas. Coastal residents should monitor surf advisories and rip current alerts, especially at beaches where wave action or strong currents may increase. In Hawaii, marine weather during the next 24 hours will be influenced mainly by trade winds and isolated showers. There is currently no indication that a tropical system will approach the islands during this period. Still, marine and tourism activity should remain alert for gusty winds near showers, rapidly changing surf conditions, and open ocean weather hazards. In Alaska, waters to the south and west will continue to face the risk of strong winds, high waves, and marine fog. Offshore fishing operations, commercial shipping, and small vessels should use extra caution as non-tropical low-pressure systems move through the North Pacific. 5 to 7 day outlook. During the next 5 to 7 days, the Eastern Pacific will remain the most important area to watch. Invest 94E may have only a limited opportunity to develop before reaching a less favorable environment. If the system does not form within the next 24 to 48 hours, the chance of significant strengthening afterward will likely decrease. Whether it develops or not, its offshore track remains the main factor limiting the risk to the United States. At the same time, a new low-pressure area may form across the central Eastern Pacific late this week or early next week. This system could become a new area of interest if thunderstorms organize more effectively. Late June and early July are often a period when the Eastern Pacific begins to become more active, as ocean waters warm, tropical moisture increases, and tropical waves moving from Central America and Mexico can help initiate development. The 2026 hurricane season in the Eastern and Central Pacific has been assessed by U.S. weather agencies as potentially more active than average. However, a seasonal outlook does not mean every storm will threaten land. The most important factors are the location where each system forms, its future track, and the atmospheric conditions surrounding it. Across the Atlantic, the Gulf of Mexico, and the Caribbean, the 5 to 7 day trend does not currently show a clear tropical threat to the U.S.'s mainland. Even so, warm water, increasing moisture, and summertime troughs may keep coastal weather unsettled. Gulf Coast and southeastern U.S. states could still experience episodes of heavy rain, strong thunderstorms, isolated tornadoes, and flash flooding caused by convection, even without a tropical cyclone. For Hawaii, there is currently no signal of a tropical cyclone approaching during the next 5 to 7 days. Still, any system that forms in the Eastern Pacific should be monitored over the longer term, because some systems may continue westward and eventually move closer to the Central Pacific. In Alaska, the weather pattern will remain non-tropical. Low-pressure systems, cold fronts, and strong winds across the North Pacific may continue to produce rough seas for several days. This is a region where marine warnings should be updated frequently, rather than relying only on tropical cyclone maps. Threat level for the United States. For the U.S. mainland during the next 24 to 48 hours, the tropical cyclone threat remains low. No tropical storm or hurricane is forecast to directly approach the Atlantic coast, Gulf Coast, Caribbean territories, Hawaii, or the U.S. West Coast in the immediate period. However, the threat from localized hazardous weather should not be underestimated. Areas along the Gulf Coast, especially from Texas to the Florida Panhandle, should remain alert for heavy rain, strong thunderstorms, lightning, gusty winds, and localized flooding caused by convection, even without a tropical cyclone. For the U.S. West Coast, Invest 94E is not currently posing a direct threat. The main concerns may involve ocean swells and changing marine conditions in some offshore areas, particularly along Southern California and waters near Baja California. The current threat level remains low, but the system should continue to be monitored in case it organizes faster than expected. For Hawaii, the short-term tropical threat also remains low. For Alaska, there is no tropical cyclone threat, but maritime hazards from strong winds, high seas, fog, and non-tropical low-pressure systems remain a noticeable concern. Hurricane and Storm Center advises all viewers in U.S. coastal states not to become complacent simply because there is not yet a major storm on the map. Hurricane season is only beginning, and marine weather can change quickly. Keep an emergency plan ready, check weather information before going offshore, maintain communication, and always follow warnings issued by local authorities. Hurricane and Storm Center will continue closely monitoring Invest 94E, new low-pressure areas in the Eastern Pacific, thunderstorm activity in the Gulf of Mexico, and any new developments that could affect the United States. Thank you for watching Hurricane and Storm Center. Please subscribe, turn on notifications, and share this update with family and friends who live or work in coastal areas across the United States.
Good evening, everyone. Here is the latest nationwide weather update and forecast for tonight and Thursday, June 25th, 2026. Regional weather forecast Northeast. A strengthening area of high pressure offshore continues to pump warm, humid air into the Northeast. Tonight, scattered showers and thunderstorms will develop across upstate New York, northern Pennsylvania, and portions of northern New England. A few storms may produce gusty winds, frequent lightning, and brief but heavy downpours. On Thursday, the heat will intensify further as temperatures rise well above seasonal averages. Highs will reach the upper 80s to mid-90s across much of the region, with heat indices pushing into the upper 90s in major urban corridors, including Philadelphia, New York City, and southern New England. By late afternoon and evening, an approaching disturbance may help trigger additional thunderstorms, especially across northern and western zones. Some storms could become strong to locally severe. Regional weather forecast Southeast. The Southeast remains locked in a hot and humid summer air mass. Tonight, scattered thunderstorms will continue across Florida, Georgia, Alabama, and the Carolinas, producing localized heavy rainfall, frequent lightning, and brief gusty winds. On Thursday, heat will be the dominant story. Widespread highs will reach the upper 80s to mid-90s, but heat indices may exceed 100 degrees Fahrenheit across parts of Florida, southern Georgia, and coastal areas. Afternoon and evening thunderstorms will become more numerous, especially along the Gulf Coast and across the Florida Peninsula, where deep tropical moisture remains in place. Localized flash flooding remains possible in urban centers, low-lying areas, and poor drainage zones. Regional weather forecast Midwest. The Midwest will remain one of the most active weather regions in the country. Tonight, thunderstorms developing across Iowa, Missouri, and Minnesota will continue moving eastward through the night. Some storms may intensify, producing damaging wind gusts, large hail, and isolated tornado potential.
On Thursday, a strong and energetic storm system interacts with a very warm and humid air mass, setting the stage for widespread severe weather. Multiple rounds of thunderstorms are expected from Missouri and Iowa into Illinois, Wisconsin, and Indiana. The main threats will include damaging straight-line winds, large hail, torrential rainfall, and a few tornadoes. Residents across the region should closely monitor weather alerts throughout the day and be prepared for rapidly changing conditions. Regional weather forecast: Great Lakes. The Great Lakes region faces an increasing risk of organized severe weather. Tonight, clusters of storms may move across Wisconsin and western Michigan, bringing strong wind gusts and heavy rainfall. On Thursday, atmospheric conditions become more favorable for stronger, more organized thunderstorm development near Lakes Michigan, Huron, and Erie. The primary threat will be damaging winds, although large hail and isolated tornadoes cannot be ruled out. Temperatures ahead of the storms will climb into the 80s and lower 90s, contributing to an unstable and volatile environment.
Regional weather forecast. Plains, Central Plains. The Central Plains remain at the core of an active severe weather pattern. Tonight, severe thunderstorms are expected from Nebraska and Kansas, extending northward into the Dakotas. These storms may produce very large hail, damaging wind gusts between 60 and 80 miles per hour, and several tornadoes. On Thursday, another round of strong to severe storms is expected, particularly across eastern Nebraska, Kansas, and parts of Oklahoma. Some storms may organize into larger complexes capable of widespread damaging winds and localized flash flooding. Temperatures ahead of the storms will rise into the upper 80s and 90s, fueling additional instability. Regional weather forecast: Southwest. The Southwest remains hot and mostly quiet in terms of widespread storm activity. Tonight, skies will stay mostly clear across Arizona, southern Nevada, and southeastern California. On Thursday, extreme heat will build across desert regions, with highs ranging from 100 degrees Fahrenheit to 110 degrees Fahrenheit in the lower desert valleys. Isolated afternoon thunderstorms may develop over higher terrain in Arizona and New Mexico, bringing brief heavy rainfall, lightning, and gusty outflow winds. Most lower desert areas will remain dry, but heat stress will be a major concern. Regional weather forecast: Rockies. The Rockies will see a mix of sunshine and scattered afternoon thunderstorms. Tonight, isolated storms may persist across parts of Colorado, Wyoming, and Montana before gradually weakening. On Thursday, renewed thunderstorm development is expected, especially across central and southern Colorado during the afternoon hours. Some storms could produce hail, gusty winds, and locally heavy rainfall. Temperatures will remain above average across many mountain valleys and foothill communities, supporting unstable afternoon conditions. Regional weather forecast: Northwest. The Northwest continues its early summer warming trend. Tonight, clear skies and mild conditions will prevail across Washington, Oregon, and Idaho. On Thursday, strong high pressure will bring abundant sunshine and noticeably warmer temperatures. Highs will reach the upper 80s and 90s across many inland areas, with some locations in eastern Washington and eastern Oregon approaching 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Dry conditions combined with rising heat will increase wildfire concerns, especially in areas with dry vegetation and gusty afternoon winds. Regional weather forecast: West Coast. The West Coast remains generally dry and warm overall. Tonight, marine layer clouds and coastal fog will persist along portions of the California coastline, especially near sunrise and overnight hours. On Thursday, coastal areas will remain relatively mild, while inland regions heat up significantly. California's Central Valley will see highs in the upper 90s to lower 100s. Interior valleys of Oregon and Northern California will also experience strong summer heat under mostly clear skies. Heat-related impacts will increase in the hottest inland locations. Regional weather forecast: Alaska. Across Alaska, a broad and active weather pattern continues. Tonight, scattered showers will affect parts of western and central Alaska, while southern coastal regions remain relatively quiet. On Thursday, cooler than normal temperatures persist across portions of western and interior Alaska. Periods of rain will continue across northern and western zones, while southeastern Alaska sees milder conditions with occasional breaks of sunshine. Winds and marine conditions may remain unsettled in exposed coastal areas. Regional weather forecast: Hawaii.
The Hawaiian Islands will remain under a typical trade wind weather pattern. Tonight, passing showers will affect windward slopes and coastal areas, while leeward sides stay mostly dry. On Thursday, moderate to locally breezy trade winds will continue. Morning sunshine will dominate most islands, followed by scattered clouds and brief showers across windward and mountain regions during the afternoon and evening. Temperatures will remain seasonable, generally in the lower 80s to mid-80s. That concludes our nationwide weather forecast for tonight and Thursday, June 25, 2026. Thank you for watching Hurricane and Storm Center. Stay weather aware, especially across the plains, Midwest, and Great Lakes, where severe thunderstorms are expected. We'll see you again in our next update. Have a safe evening and a great day ahead.